The strange psychology of people who stay calm on their birthday. Why do some people treat their birthdays like any other day? No party, no social media posts, no elaborate dinners, just calm silence or even deliberate solitude. You might think they're indifferent or maybe antisocial, but what if their calmness hides something far deeper? What if this behavior isn't apathy, but insight? A quiet rebellion against the cultural noise, or even a profound awareness of time, mortality, and the illusion of identity. In this video, we're going to explore the strange, underrated psychology of those who stay calm on their birthday, and maybe, by the end, you'll realize that this seemingly simple behavior reveals something astonishing about how we relate to life itself. Let's start with something uncomfortable. Imagine waking up on your birthday and feeling nothing. You look at your phone, no desire to post about it, no urge to tell anyone. You're not sad, not bitter, just still. You go about your day like you would on a Tuesday in March. In a world obsessed with celebration, isn't that a little strange? Or is it actually a sign of something evolved? For most people, birthdays are emotional amplifiers. They're charged with expectations, to reflect, to party, to feel special. But when someone chooses to stay calm on their birthday, they're not just turning down the volume, they might be stepping outside the system altogether. Our culture teaches us to mark time with emotional milestones. You turn 16, you feel freedom. Turn 30, you panic. Turn 50, you reflect. But what if you stopped playing that game? What if a birthday didn't mean anything profound unless you gave it meaning? That's what people who stay calm on their birthday often understand consciously or unconsciously. They're not denying that time is passing. They're not pretending that life doesn't matter. Quite the opposite. They might be the ones who feel the weight of time most deeply. But instead of performing celebration or anxiety, they choose stillness. They let the day be what it is, a number, a rotation of the earth, a moment that's no more special than yesterday unless they decide to make it so.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
This calmness often comes from an inner detachment, one that's not cold but clear. Carl Jung wrote extensively about individuation, the process of separating your true self from the false self that is shaped by societal expectations. Birthdays are a magnifying glass for those expectations. You're expected to post, to party, to prove you're loved. But when someone stays calm, they might be practicing individuation in real time. They're saying, I don't need this external ritual to validate my existence. That's not apathy, that's power. But let's not romanticize it too quickly. Sometimes this calmness hides something else, a quiet grief. Not all who stay calm are at peace. For some, birthdays bring up the ache of time lost, missed opportunities, people who should have been there but aren't. The calm is a shield, a way not to feel too much. So here's a question to ask yourself. Is your calmness born from wisdom or from woundedness? Either way, the behavior is telling. Whether it comes from enlightenment or emotional fatigue, staying calm on your birthday is a rejection of the performative self. And that's where the philosophy deepens. Because what is a birthday, really? It's the anniversary of your entrance into the world. But it's also a reminder that you're moving, slowly and inevitably, toward your exit. Birthdays are mini memento moris, reminders that you are mortal, that you are not permanent, that you are a process, not a fixed thing. So maybe the calm isn't strange at all. Maybe it's the most honest response you can have to the reality of life. Think about it like this. When a monk in a Zen monastery wakes up on his birthday, what does he do? He doesn't throw a party. He doesn't post a selfie with balloons. He meditates. He returns to the breath. Because for him, the self that was born X years ago is not the self that exists today. The idea of I was born on this day becomes less important than I am alive right now. That shift from identity to presence is what defines the strange psychology we're talking about. And yet, we live in a culture that constantly pulls us in the opposite direction. Social media turns birthdays into performance art. You're expected to display gratitude, showcase affection, share photos, express growth. But the person who stays calm doesn't play. They see the game and opt out. Not because they don't care, but because they care differently. They care more about being than appearing. They trade spectacle for sincerity. So here's the big question. What if your birthday wasn't a chance to be celebrated, but a chance to disappear just for a moment into the mystery of your own existence? That might sound dramatic, but think about it. When you strip away the cake, the calls, the cards, what's left? You. Just you. Breathing. Aging. Becoming. That silence might scare some people, but for others, it's sacred. The calm isn't emptiness, it's awareness. It's the quiet courage to face time without distraction. And in a world that worships noise, stillness is a radical act. In the next part, we'll explore why birthdays make some people feel like imposters in their own lives, and how staying calm might be a subtle way of resisting the pressure to prove that you're doing life right. The birthday imposter. Why some people feel like strangers in their own story. There's a strange, quiet dissonance that creeps into the hearts of certain people on their birthdays. They receive texts, comments, maybe even gifts, little affirmations of their existence, and yet something inside them doesn't click. They smile, they say thank you, but underneath it all, there's a subtle sense of disconnection, as if the version of them being celebrated isn't quite real, as if they're watching someone else's life play out while pretending to belong to it. This is the birthday imposter syndrome. And it runs deeper than awkwardness. It's the existential feeling of being misaligned with your own narrative. We've all heard of imposter syndrome in the workplace or in creative pursuits, that creeping doubt that tells you you're a fraud, that you don't belong. But birthday imposter syndrome is more subtle. It doesn't attack your skills. It questions your identity. It whispers, is this really who you are? Is this the life you meant to live? And when everyone else seems eager to celebrate your trajectory, you stand there wondering if the map they're reading from was ever yours to begin with. Carl Jung would say this is the moment when the ego and the self are out of sync. The ego, the mask we wear for the world, has collected all the accolades, relationships, and roles. But the self, the deeper, truer you, may not feel seen at all. So when your birthday rolls around and everyone is cheering for the ego, the self stands in the background, quiet, unseen, asking, but what about me? The calmness that some people radiate on their birthday isn't always serenity. It can be a silent protest, a refusal to celebrate a version of themselves they don't fully recognize. And here's the twist. In a world obsessed with birthdays as progress reports, this calmness can feel like rebellion, because birthdays are often treated as checkpoints. Age 25? You better have a career. 30? Family. 40? Stability. 50? Wisdom. But who created this timeline? And when did we agree to live by it? Those who stay calm on their birthdays may not be apathetic. They may simply be stepping out of the algorithm. They may be quietly rejecting the need to measure their life against someone else's milestones. But the imposter feeling doesn't just come from external expectations. Sometimes it emerges from within, from the haunting realization that year after year, we've drifted from the person we once hoped to become. Maybe we compromised too much, settled too early, hid too often. And now, on this day of supposed reflection, the mirror feels warped. Happy birthday, they say, and we think, to whom? To the dreamer, or to the ghost? This internal fracture is not a failure, it's a signal, a call to return, to ask, what would it mean to feel like myself again? That's not an easy question, because the answer may demand change. It may require grief. It may force us to admit that we've been living safely, but not truthfully. For some, staying calm on their birthday is a way to hold space for that question without the noise of celebration drowning it out. There's also a deeper philosophical tension at play. Birthdays remind us that time is passing, but they rarely ask us to confront what we're doing with that time. We celebrate the fact that we were born, yet we rarely ask if we are becoming. The person who feels like an imposter on their birthday may be closer to truth than we think, because they're not numbing the feeling. They're not covering it with balloons. They're sitting with it, asking, is this the story I want to keep telling? And if not, what would a new chapter look like? This is the hidden power of birthday calmness. It's not disengagement, it's inquiry. It's the pause before reinvention, the space where the real self dares to whisper. And while the world rushes to light candles and sing songs, this person listens to something quieter, the sound of their own soul catching up. In the next part, we'll explore how the calmness we see on birthdays often masks a profound shift in how a person experiences time itself, and how this shift may hold the key to escaping the illusion of linear life. The illusion of the clock, how calm people experience time differently. There's a curious phenomenon that often goes unnoticed in the psychology of people who remain calm on their birthdays. Their relationship with time is fundamentally different. While most of us measure life in clear, linear increments, years, milestones, deadlines, they seem to exist outside of that structure. Not entirely detached, but not enslaved by it either. It's as if they no longer believe the clock is the true measure of life. And perhaps that's why their birthday doesn't feel like a moment of significance to them. Because when you've escaped the illusion of linear time, dates on a calendar lose their grip on your soul. We are raised in a world that teaches us to structure time like a staircase. You're always meant to be climbing higher, better, older, wiser. Every birthday becomes another step, a checkpoint that asks, are you where you're supposed to be? But what if the staircase is a lie? What if time isn't a sequence we climb, but a river we float in, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, sometimes still? People who stay calm on their birthday often live closer to this river than to the staircase. They don't see their age as a level up, nor do they see it as a decline. They simply see it as movement. And because of that, they don't panic when the calendar turns. They don't cling to numbers. They don't obsess over achievements. They just observe. This different experience of time often comes after some kind of inner awakening. Maybe it was a crisis, a loss, a deep spiritual shift. Something shook them out of the illusion that life progresses in tidy, predictable lines. They saw that growth can come rapidly or not at all. That wisdom doesn't follow age. That presence is more real than planning. And once you see time this way, birthdays stop being milestones. They become moments, no more, no less. And that calmness you see? It's not boredom, it's peace. But there's another layer to this. You see, most of us are chronologically aligned but existentially disoriented. We know our age, but we don't know who we are. We know the year, but not the meaning of it. We can tell you when we were born, but not why. People who are calm on their birthday may have stopped trying to answer that why in conventional terms. They've surrendered the need for a tidy narrative. Instead, they focus on being present within the mystery. They no longer grip the story by its spine. They let the pages turn themselves. This isn't detachment in the cold sense. It's detachment in the Buddhist sense, non-clinging. A refusal to be ruled by the past or by the imagined future. In this light, staying calm on your birthday becomes a kind of spiritual practice. It's a quiet statement, I don't belong to the calendar, I belong to the moment. It's a radical form of presence in a world that constantly demands projection. And here's the paradox: people who live this way often feel more alive, not less. More open, more attuned. Because when you stop racing the clock, you can finally hear the heartbeat of the now. Ask yourself this: if you didn't know your age, how old would you feel? Not in your body, but in your being. Would you still define yourself by the number? Or would you begin to sense something timeless inside you? Something that doesn't age, doesn't plan, doesn't fear the passage of days. That's the core insight. People who are calm on their birthday may no longer identify with the person who was born on that day. They've outgrown that identity. They've stepped into a version of themselves that isn't dated or defined. And so the anniversary of birth becomes less relevant than the reality of being. They don't reject the day, they simply don't inflate it. They don't need the clock to tell them that they matter. They already know. In a way, this is the ultimate freedom. When you no longer fear time, you no longer need to celebrate or mourn it. You simply live. And while others are anxiously counting, measuring, comparing, you're just here, breathing. Awar. Oh. In the final part, we'll explore the most profound layer of this calmness, how some people use their birthdays not to mark another year lived, but to prepare for death, and why that might be the most life-affirming act of all. The birthday is a rehearsal for death. Why stillness is the ultimate celebration. There's a depth to the calmness of certain people on their birthdays that most never glimpse. It's not just peace or detachment or even reflection. It is something far more radical, a quiet contemplation of death. Not in a morbid or despairing way, but as a form of preparation, a spiritual readiness, a conscious rehearsal. For these individuals, a birthday isn't just the anniversary of birth, it's a symbolic acknowledgement that life is finite. It's a private ritual, not of festivity, but of reverence. And in that stillness, they are not indifferent to life, they are honoring it more deeply than any party ever could. Most people avoid thinking about death on their birthday. That would spoil the mood, right? But what if that's exactly the problem? We've turned birthdays into escapism, into noise that drowns out the truth that each passing year brings us closer to the unknown. But the person who stays calm on their birthday doesn't run from this truth. They sit with it. They listen to it. They let it shape their understanding of what it means to be alive. And in doing so, they touch something sacred. The philosopher Martin Heidegger once said that authentic existence begins when we confront the inevitability of our own death, not abstractly, but intimately. Most of us live in what he called inauthentic time. We drift, we distract, we delay. But to live authentically is to live in the shadow of your finitude, to know that the clock is ticking and still choose presence over panic, to know that you are dying not someday but now, slowly, and yet to smile, to breathe, to love. That is the essence of maturity. That is the essence of the calm birthday mind. You see, when you understand death not just as an event but as a truth woven into every moment, your entire relationship with time transforms. You stop trying to conquer it. You stop trying to stretch it. You simply inhabit it fully. And birthdays, far from being anxiety traps or ego fests, become opportunities to practice this presence. To ask, if this were my last birthday, how would I experience it? Not what I do, but how would I feel? What would I notice? Who would I be? That's the quiet power in these calm people. Their stillness isn't passive, it's contemplative. It's a kind of inner alignment with the impermanence of all things. While others chase youth, they embrace change. While others fear endings, they find beauty in closure. They don't cling to being celebrated because they've already made peace with the silence that follows every life. And it's in this silence that they often feel most awake. Here's the paradox. The closer you live to death, the more vividly you experience life. When you stop treating birthdays as trophies and start seeing them as sacred pauses, you begin to notice details you once missed: the texture of time, the subtle shifts in your being, the miracle of breath. And you start to realize that every day is a birthday, every morning is a beginning, every heartbeat is a gift. The calendar doesn't define that. You do. So maybe the calmness isn't strange at all. Maybe it's wisdom. Maybe it's the mark of someone who no longer needs to be reminded that life is precious because they carry that awareness in everything they do. Maybe they've stopped celebrating the self that was born and started honoring the soul that is becoming, quietly, patiently, without spectacle. And maybe, just maybe, the next time your birthday comes around, you'll feel something different. Not pressure, not sadness, not even excitement, but depth. A quiet, grounded awareness that you are still here, still changing, still walking the mystery, that you are not a number, you are not a timeline, you are not a performance, you are a presence. And in this presence, every moment is enough. So let the calm ones be your teachers, the ones who don't need the world to clap, who don't need candles to remember that they're alive, who don't fear the passage of time because they've already befriended eternity. And ask yourself, as the world spins and the years pass, what would it mean to live a life that doesn't need to be celebrated, only deeply felt?